The DAV has a strong record of success. That is the result of outstanding leadership and wisdom. Throughout our history, these remarkable men and women have applied sound judgment, professional skills, and extraordinary dedication to our mission. Dave, who is a combat disabled veteran of the Vietnam War, was appointed Executive Director of our Washington headquarters in 1995. His responsibilities include oversight of our national service, legislative, and voluntary service programs. He is the organization's point man with Congress, the White House, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. Dave enjoys a reputation as one of the nation's foremost experts on VA's complex array of services and programs designed to assist American veterans and their families. His keen understanding of the VA's inner workings has made him a top choice to serve on numerous VA and congressionally chartered advisory committees, as well as many ad hoc groups focused on America's veterans. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to the National Convention our Washington Headquarters Executive Director, Dave Gorman.
Thank you, Commander. National Commander Reynolds, delegates, and guests, it is indeed my honor to be able to present to you again my report on the activities of your National Service and Legislative Headquarters. First, however, I want to acknowledge the outstanding dedication, commitment, and service to DAV by Commander Rob Reynolds, not only this year as Commander, but over his many years of giving of himself to assist veterans and make life a bit easier and better for them. Rob, you've served us magnificently, and for that, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. Art Wilson, our national adjutant, has given over 40 years of his life in dedication to disabled veterans and to DAV. His unmatched passion and commitment to our mission of service can be seen all around us. The service provided by our Corps of National Service Officers is unparalleled anywhere. Innovative programs that the DAV operates, our transition service program, our mobile service officers, our transportation program, our training programs, and multiple programs of outreach to America's veterans are all running at warp speed and are envied by others. And with that said, I want to thank you, Art, for your vision and your leadership. Let me stop here for a minute and digress. Congressman Filner very graciously, and as a combat Vietnam veteran, graciously apologized for the country not taking care of us, not taking care of the warrior when we came home. And although I won't speak for everybody, I can speak for myself and say that while some agree that we weren't taken care of and an apology is due or not due, I will say to you, Congressman, as chairman, and I know you will, that the real apology we need is not necessarily in words, but it's in deeds. And the deed is, you've talked about mandatory funding, Congress has talked about mandatory funding, we don't have it yet. If a true apology is to be made for Vietnam veterans, as well as all veterans, and we don't as a nation have to apologize to this generation of veterans, then mandatory funding should be made, it should be made the law of the land, and it should be made the law of the land now. And I know the chairman is an advocate, and I know he's a champion, and I know he would want it no other way than for all of us and our fellow veterans to hold not only him, his committee, but all members of Congress accountable for doing the right thing for veterans and standing up for veterans as we have stood up for the nation. Each year, as I prepare to report to you, I struggle a little bit. I struggle deciding really what to say to you because there's so much to say. I could go on for hours, but don't panic. I'll keep it brief. Seriously, I could spend hours just talking about the fantastic job that Randy Reese, his staff, and our 260 National Service Officers and our 38 Transition Service Officers do for disabled veterans on a daily basis. How unmatched their representation and advocacy for veterans is, or how invaluable our hundreds of department and chapter service officers really are. Or I could relate countless episodes of how Joe Violante and his staff spend an extraordinary amount of time and effort walking the halls of Congress, educating members of Congress and their staffs about veterans issues, or about the 63 hearings they have testified at this session of Congress alone regarding over 194 separate pieces of veterans legislation. Or I could brag about Ed Hartman's volunteer programs and how many veterans' lives have been immeasurably brightened by our 15,000-plus volunteers at VA medical facilities, or tell story after story of individual veterans who would not have received life-saving medical care if it weren't for a DAV volunteer driving one of our transportation network vans. I could talk endlessly about any one of our programs of service and advocacy, and the funny thing is, so could you, because all of you are so personally involved and committed to our mission of service. So the bottom line is each of us, individually and collectively, contribute very, very personally to this report. And for that, you all have my thanks and my gratitude. So let me take a somewhat different path and discuss some issues that give me some great concern and some that offer some great hope and opportunity. Last year, I reported on the work of the Dole-Shalala Commission. Since then, its report has been released, and most of its recommendations are very, very positive for veterans. However, there's one that proposes the establishment of an entirely new disability compensation system that portends disaster, in my view, for disabled veterans. For the very first time, VA disability compensation for service-connected disabilities would be means-tested. Compensation would be reduced from today's levels if a veteran overcomes your disability, if you rehabilitate yourself, or if you earn a salary or receive Social Security disability benefits. Forgotten in that whole equation are the sacrifices so few have made for so many. This proposal has now taken on a life of its own in two separate pieces of legislation, one in the House and one in the Senate. DAV has vigorously opposed these proposals and will continue to do so because they're bad for veterans. The answer to fixing the disability system and its absolutely unacceptable backlog of cases is not to throw away the current system and replace it with a new one. Rather, the answer is to give adequate numbers of VA adjudicators who have received extensive training and are held accountable. They're held accountable for their decisions, and that will go a long way toward a cure. And second, VA must make use of all available technology of the 21st century that will assist in the decision-making process. The capability is certainly there. Now what we need to see is the will to use it to its full capacity. Healthcare. In my mind, no finer system exists than our VA healthcare system. Sure, we can all point to some individual disappointments, long waiting times, maybe a rude or an insensitive clerk. But when you look objectively at the health care that VA provides from A to Z, they have few equals. Private watchdog agencies and multiple quality of care and accrediting groups have all given VA higher marks for the care they provide than that is provided by the overall private sector. So with the quality of care issues put to rest, what needs to be done? The answer is simple, but as we've seen, the solution much more difficult. Congress needs to provide VA with a funding process that is sufficient, timely, and predictable, as called for in our Stand Up for Veterans campaign.